Welcome to another edition of Teach the Geek interviews. My name is Neil Thompson. I'm the founder of Teach the Geek. I work with technical professionals so they can present more effectively, especially in front of non-technical audiences. You can learn more about that at teachthegeek.com. Again, that's teachthegeek.com. Today, my guest is Dr. Rebecca Heiss. She is a evolutionary biologist, a stress expert, an author, and a speaker. So for those of you all who are thinking about getting into the speaking business, I suspect you have a whole bunch of questions. How do you go about finding a speaking topic? How do you go about getting speaking engagements? How do you go about pricing your services? A bunch of questions. So let's get into getting some answers from Dr. Heiss. Welcome to Teach the Geek interviews, Dr. Heiss.
Well, thank you so much, Neil. I'm delighted to be here and hope I can be of use to you and to your listeners.
Yes, we hope so as well. First question, Dr. Heiss. How'd you go about coming to your speaking topic?
Um, well, actually, the topic itself, I think, is the easiest thing to choose because it's my area of expertise. I have a PhD in stress physiology. My master's degree focused on evolutionary biology. And so I just sort of combined the two and said, how can I apply the knowledge that I know to change people's practical everyday experience of life? So really, where does this science apply to everyday life? And that's how I developed my speaking topic. I think for anybody that's beginning and trying to figure out what their specific topic is, one of my favorite rules of thumb is to think about what you could talk about nonstop to somebody, like excitedly for 30 minutes. What could you just, if people were peppering you with questions right now, what would you be thrilled to answer? And like this is kind of this interview. I love speaking. I could speak about speaking, so that's another topic potentially for me to explore. So think about the things that you could talk about really easily for 30 minutes, and be excited about.
All right. So now let's just say somebody or people who are listening or watching this conversation, they think, I'm a good speaker. I need to be a speaker. I now have a speaking topic based on my expertise. But now I have to figure out, well, what is that going to actually look like? I think a lot of times when people talk about speaking or professional speaking, they think about keynoting. But there are certainly
Mm.
other things that you could do besides keynoting. So I'm curious, when it comes to the work that you do, what type of services do you offer?
Well, keynoting actually is what I do the most. But I do some consulting, very little, a little bit of coaching, but mainly what I do is keynote. There's certainly, as you said, lots of other opportunities to speak. And when I was first sort of coming up through speaking, growing as a speaker, I was doing a lot of those smaller audiences, really more workshop material. So 3 hours, 4 hours of interactions with people where I was leading them through. But really the weight of the work was on the group to do the work. So there's lots of opportunities in the speaking world. It is a massive business, a $4 billion business. There's plenty of room for all of us. And so yeah, I mean, my work focuses now on keynote speaking, but that really evolved from consulting and workshopping and even doing some TEDx's.
All right. So now the people who are aspiring, I want to be a speaker. I have a topic based on my expertise. I've decided after listening to Dr. Heiss, I'm going to be a keynoter. All right.
Love it.
So now what do they need to have in place to actually put themselves out there as a speaker?
Man, this is the hardest part, I think, is making that initial leap. Here's the biggest things you need. You need video. Like people are not going to book you unless they can see that you can do what you say you are going to do, especially as a paid speaker. If you want to be a paid keynote speaker, you need to find a stage and get video of you performing for, it doesn't have to be anybody. You can fake it. That's a little trick of the industry. If you can find a stage and you can deliver on stage and to get it filmed professionally, there's plenty of videographers you can find. That's key number one, right? People need to see that you can deliver. The second thing you're going to need is a one sheet, basically something that says, here's who I am. This is why I'm the person that you need to hire. What are your credentials? And then on that same one sheet, so who you are, the problem that you solve. So again, my area of expertise is in stress and understanding and helping people manage and change their stress into fuel that actually helps them to perform rather than holds them back. So that's the problem that I solve. All right. So your problem, your credentials for doing it. And then the last piece is the transformation that you offer your audience. What is it that they're going to walk away with? So you're going to get that video of you on stage to prove that you can do the thing you say you do. And you're going to get that one sheet that talks through why you're the person to hire, the problem that you solve, and the transformation that the audience is going to experience having heard you. If you have those things, you can walk up to any CEO, to any association, to any speaking bureau and say, here's who I am. This is why you need to hire me. Here's my materials. And that's a great place to start.
Huh. Interesting. I really like that point about faking the video. Because I think
Yeah, because this is, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, I think a lot of the times people that's probably what holds people up, thinking, okay,
Yeah,
I certainly want to be a keynoter, but I understand that I need to have video, but I mean, I don't have any
it's a
video.
yeah, it's a chicken egg problem, right? Where you're going, well, in order to get booked, I have to have video, but in order to have video, I have to be booked. Not necessarily, right? You can, if you can get a stage, get a high school theater, wherever you can find a stage, get on it and get a professional videographer. I cannot emphasize that enough. Video quality and audio quality is key. So find somebody who's going to capture you doing what you do and do it well.
Okay, so
That's it.
you should put the money into the professional videographer.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And
Yep.
then I suspect you'll also have to get the video edited as well.
Yeah, so this is a big debate in the speaker community. You know, there's things out there called sizzle reels, and you've probably heard of them before. And they're basically under 5 minutes of the speaker. It's a preview, if you will, right? Think about a great movie that you go to watch. And this is the speaker preview. And so it's really often very highly edited, it's dramatic, there's like pounding music in it, you know. And so that's a really highly edited clip. And that has its place, right? I absolutely have a sizzle reel. I have two, in fact. One's a 30-second reel and one's a 5 minute long reel. But the thing that my clients often ask me for more than my sizzle reel is we want to see 5 to 10 minutes of you on stage, just unedited, unclipped, your raw material. Because really, what they need to see isn't that you can hire some fancy editor to make you look good. What they need to see is that you have stage presence, that you're able to capture the audience, that people really value and care about what you're saying. And so, really, the higher value there isn't in the editing process, it's in you delivering what you say you can deliver.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Because now I think about it, you certainly could hire somebody for however much money, and they can make you look
That's
great.
it.
And then you show
That's
up,
it.
you show up for the actual engagement, and you might think
And you're
this person
lousy. Yeah.
sucks.
Exactly, exactly. And I think more and more people are recognizing, like, oh yeah, I can make anybody look good. You give me a couple hours worth of footage, I can pick and pull and like, oh, there's a decent quote and throw it together. And I can make anybody look good through an editing process. Being on stage, unedited, 10 minutes, whew, that's harder.
Yeah, I totally can
Yeah.
see that. All right. So you have aspiring speakers out there listening or watching this conversation. They got their speaking topic. They've developed some speaking assets like the video and the one sheet, and possibly have a website as well. They're ready to go.
Oh yeah, huge.
They want to be speakers. So how do they go about marketing themselves as a speaker?
Ugh. This is probably the most difficult question you're going to ask me because there are 1,000 different approaches, and I am not going to say anyone is better or worse than the other. What I'll say is my marketing is 99% word of mouth. So when I first was starting out, I was like, I've got my topic, I got my one sheet, I got all the things. I would say yes to everything. So I would look online for something called a call for speaker or a call for proposals, right? And I would submit my material over and over and over and over again. And somebody would say, "Oh, would you fly to, Timbuktu and it's going to be on your own dime and we're not going to pay you?" And I'd say, "Yes, absolutely." Because here's why. First of all, I can get video, right? I can get video of me on stage doing my thing. Second of all, that person is going to say, wow, Rebecca was amazing. And at the end of my speech, this is key. I always ask the meeting planners, what did you like? Did I do a good job? Do you have any feedback? Is there anyone you could recommend me to? Because that is going to build your business more than anything else. You can run Google ads, you can work on LinkedIn to try and build your network. More than anything else, your speaking gigs are going to come from referrals. So there's something in the speaking world that we call the pancake breakfast tour. And if you know, you know, right? If you can get into a room where people are eating their pancake breakfast and you're doing the American Legions, you're doing all of those free pancake breakfasts, you are going to start to get referrals. And those are going to build into bigger and bigger keynote gigs, more higher paid gigs, more of them. So I would say don't be afraid to say yes to anything and everything because A, it's going to give you the repetition that you need. Get those reps in. And B, you're going to start getting referrals from them. So yeah, that's the best advice I've got.
All right. I mean, you certainly mentioned the pancake breakfast circuit.
Yeah,
I like pancakes. As
I do
long as
too. Yeah.
as long as there's enough syrup. If there's not enough syrup, I
Will
don't
work
want
for
them.
food. Will work for food. Absolutely. Yeah.
So in the event that you're
Excuse me.
even thinking about going down that route of doing free engagements, you also still have to support yourself financially. So
Sure.
there's a financial cost to you taking on these roles. How do you balance taking on these free engagements while still being able to support yourself financially?
Yeah, I think this is a big mistake that people make is they see these speakers, making 30,000, 50,000, $100,000 a gig and they're like, "Oh, I can do that. I can do that." And they quit their job and then they just expect people to come to them for gigs and it just doesn't work like that. I've been doing this for over 10 years. No, very, very infrequently does somebody out of the blue just come to me and say, I want to hire you. I've never heard of you before, but here's your full keynote speaking fee. Doesn't happen. So my recommendation is keep your full-time gig. This is the hustle. You start building your reputation as a speaker on the back. So this is on top of your full-time gig. Keep building, 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 building. When you start getting those $5,000 keynotes or those $5,000 workshops repeatedly, and you're like, oh, okay, this is covering. That's the time to make the switch. That's the time to go full time, which means you're putting in double work, right? This is not easy. It is a really hard job to get traction in. But if you can get that traction, if you can get that repetition, if you can build that reputation on the back of having the financial security that you'll have, then you can begin to launch into a full-time career.
All right. So you have a full-time job. You have a certain number of days off.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to use all those days off to do these free engagements or potentially some paid engagements too, I suspect. And then
Yes, you are.
and then once those days are done, you're going to then look back and think and then look and see using these days, I was able to make this amount of money. So if
Right.
I had more days free to go after these engagements, I could potentially make, well, hopefully you make even more money because you have more days available to do these to take on these engagements. Is that how you should go about, figuring out whether to go full time or not?
Yeah, that's my recommendation. It's a feast or famine kind of industry. And until you have that regular cadence. I mean, there are people speaking 10 years plus, like me, who are still going into their July going, I have no bookings this month. Zero bookings in July. Now, I've got, six this next week, but it is one of those feast or famine industries. So you have to have that financial padding to go, can I make it through an entirely dry month and then be able to come back? So really give yourself that padding to really go all in when you're ready and not before.
How do you go about pricing your services?
Yeah, that's another tough question. I think um my best recommendation is when you have too many engagements, when you start saying no because you're like, "Oh my gosh, I can't juggle that many." You're definitely needing to price raise your prices. So, when I first started speaking, I started at $1,000. $1,000, right? And by the time I had, 7 gigs a month, I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to raise my price. $5,000. It was a $5,000. I'm at a $5,000 speaker. And by the time I had multiple engagements at the $5,000 level, I was like, oh, okay. Well, I want to do fewer at a higher price. Now is the time to raise your price again. So there's two camps in that. There's people that want to speak all the time, as frequently as I can, like 100+ gigs a year, which I've done. 100+ gigs a year. All right. And then there are others that say, you know what? I only want to speak 10 times a year. I want to speak at this price point. And as long as there's no right or wrong way to do it, as long as you are clear about the pricing that you want and you can command that price with your credentials, whether that be, your academic credentials, or you have a book out, or you're a known expert, or you have gotten media attention, or have a big social platform, whatever it is, you can raise the price to that point, if you are clear with your goals. So yeah, sky's the limit.
I'm, I mentioned in the intro that you are an author as well. So for someone like yourself who has written a book, how helpful has that been in getting speaking engagements?
It's a great question, and one I wish I had clear metrics on. Um, it certainly doesn't hurt. I would say, I was very lucky in that going into my speaking career, I already had pretty strong credentials. I have a couple master's degrees, I have a PhD in the thing that I'm speaking on. So that was really helpful in building up my credentials. If you don't have that academic backing, writing a book or having a book that you've authored on the topic that you're speaking is going to just up your game for the credential part of your ability to get booked. So yeah, it's certainly doesn't hurt you. Um, would I put all of my eggs in the basket to say, well, I'm an expert on innovation because I've written a book on innovation? No, it's a nice marketing piece, but you're still going to have to show, of the 50 other books on innovation that came out this year, why yours is different and why you are the person to be speaking on this topic.
All right. You mentioned that you've been speaking for over 10 years now. I'm curious, do you ever
Yeah.
even now take on engagements in which you're getting paid less than your fee? And if so, what do you ask for in exchange for taking on a lower fee?
That's a really important question. So I am a stickler for fee integrity, with one exception. So fee integrity to me is incredibly important because I don't need Coca-Cola to hear that I did a gig for $1,000 when I'm charging them, 20,000. It's super, super important that as a speaker, you maintain your fee integrity across all of your clients. My one exception is nonprofits, especially in the speaking industry. So if I'm working with an association, that is going to help actually market me as a speaker, I can make an exception there. Or if it's a nonprofit that is near and dear to my heart, and I'm doing it out of goodwill. Typically, I will not take a fee, so that there's no discrepancy. I'm not giving them some discount. I just won't take a fee, and I'll do the gig for free.
Okay, so with those exceptions, every other engagement you take on, your fee is your fee, and if they're not willing to pay it, then you just don't do the engagement.
That's it. There's plenty of great speakers out there, and if they can't meet my fee, that's okay. That's totally understandable. Everybody has a budget. I am more than willing to recommend other speakers, right? There are some great speakers out there in my industry that I know well enough to say, hey, you know what? Here's another option at this level. And this is another great thing for marketing, is get to know other speakers in your industry. Get to know other speakers that are speaking on your topic, because they are going to become references for you. if they can't do a gig, or if I'm already booked, or the price is too high or too low, we offer up one another. So that's another great way to, get more bookings.
For someone who is starting out as a speaker, would you suggest that they have fee integrity too, or is this something that you build to over time?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably more important over time. Um, that's such an important question. Gosh. Um, it's probably more important as you establish yourself in the industry. I think the biggest reason, or one of the main reasons for fee integrity, is when you start to work with bureaus. Um, what you don't want is a client going to one bureau and getting quoted something, and then they just go to another bureau and they get quoted something differently for you. That's really really bad. That's a career ending move. When you're not represented by bureaus, when it's just you, I think there's a little more wiggle room to play in that fee integrity space. Um, and the other thing, you can just be upfront. You can say, hey, typically, I'm a $5,000 speaker. For you this time, I'm going to do it for $2,000. Here's my ask. Will you please, uh, to help, change that gap, or to help close that gap for me, would you please give me $2,000 worth of value in referencing me to other people? That's how I would price it out, just so that you are still maintaining that integrity in telling everybody, hey, this is my fee, this is the discount I'm giving you, and here's how we're going to cover that discount. It's kind of a sneaky way to get around it, but I think that would help you in the long run.
All right. For those who are starting out, they may come across various programs that promise to help them in building out their speaking businesses. What are your thoughts on such programs, and what should people expect from them?
I would say be very, very careful. There are a lot of people trying to take advantage of you out there. That said, there are some great programs as well. So I'll give a little shout out to Impact 11. I've been a part uh, of their group now for several years, and I can't think of a better investment if you are just starting out. Um, it is it is a powerful way to get to know the big players, to get to know the bureaus, to understand the industry, to really hone in on your speaking topic and your lane. You got some really big names in there. So I think what you should expect from any of these programs is access, first and foremost, access to a community, access to mentors, access to bureaus, and access to somebody who can answer your questions. I mean, even as veteran speakers, there's we still need to ask questions like, what would you do with this situation, or how would you approach this bureau, or um, and having that community is going to be really really important. So that's probably the biggest um, thing to look for. The other thing, is there are some great coaches out there. I personally have worked with a couple coaches. My speaking coach, who has been with me, gosh, for 6 years now, 7 years, Nick Morgan, highly recommend. Has worked with me on my book, has worked with me on marketing. So I think for any program, just just be very clear what you are going to get out of it, and don't be afraid to ask questions, to make sure that you're all in alignment for the value for your money.
Yeah, it really does come down to that, because
Mhm.
I think a lot of people they start off with stars in their eyes, thinking that this is going to be great. I'm a good speaker. I have a message,
Yeah,
and I'm going to impact people. And they see this program for a certain amount of money, and they're thinking, if I do this, it's going to catapult me to speaker success. And then they finish the program, and where are they? Are they how better off are they than before they got started? And it's so
that's it.
unfortunate when
That's
you
it, Neil. That's
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Yeah. And I'd say anybody that promises you gigs, be really skeptical. Be really, really skeptical. If somebody's going to say you're going to make $20,000 or $50,000 your first year, no, just be very aware of that. There's no guarantees in this business. I you can get better for sure. And there's a lot of programs out there that can help you get better, but nobody's going to guarantee you bookings. I would be very, very cautious if you hear about any programs like that.
All right. Last question I have for you, Dr. Heiss. You touched on this before, but I really want to hammer this home. So in the event that no one listened to anything up until this point, they'll listen to this. So
All right.
in the event that you're an aspiring speaker and you want to take that plunge into full-time speaking, what do you need to have in place before you leave your full-time job to become a full-time speaker?
I mean, exactly what I said before. You've got to have the video. You've got to have the one sheet. You got to have a website. I didn't mention that before, Neil. And you called me out on that. And it's true. You have to have a website. You have to show people where to go that shows you off. To say, look, this is me, RebeccaHeiss.com. You can see that I am a speaker. Here's the topics that I speak on. So a website presence, a one sheet, a video. If you have those three things, you're a speaker. At some level, you're a speaker. So from there on, get the reps, get the reps, get the reps. I cannot tell you how valuable that repetition is in speaking anywhere, anytime, any place. You will become more comfortable with yourself. You will become more comfortable with your material. People will start talking about you. It's the most valuable thing that you can invest in is your own repetition in speaking. So go get it.
Excellent. This has been a great conversation, Dr. Heiss. Thank you so much for being a guest. How can people get in touch with you?
Neil, it's been my pleasure. Thank you so much. You can find me at my website, RebeccaHeiss.com, or on my Instagram at Dr. Rebecca Heiss, Heiss. Reach out. I am happy to help you out any way that I can. So yeah, good luck out there, guys. There's plenty of room for us all. Come on in. It's a great industry.
Everyone, that marks the end of another edition of Teach the Geek Interviews. My name is Neil Thompson. I'm the founder of Teach the Geek. I work with technical professionals so they can present more effectively, especially in front of non-technical audiences. And you can learn more about that at teachthegeek.com. Again, that's teachthegeek.com. Until next time, take care and stay safe. Thank you, Dr. Heiss.
Thank you.